The call came on a Tuesday morning, just as I was folding laundry in the quiet of my kitchen. The voice on the other end was polite, clipped, professional. "Mrs. Reynolds, this is Mark from Crescent Life Insurance. I just need to confirm. Should we process the beneficiary request for Ms. Hannah Cole?" I froze, a towel slipping from my hands. "I'm sorry. Who?" "Hannah Cole," he repeated, as though the name should mean something to me. "She's listed as a secondary beneficiary under your husband's policy. We just need your authorization to proceed." My chest tightened. There must be a mistake. I'm his wife. I should be the only one on that policy. The man hesitated, shuffling papers. "No, ma'am. It's clearly filed here. Miss Cole was added 18 months ago." 18 months. My throat went dry. That was around the time my husband started working late nights, traveling more, carrying his phone everywhere like it was a piece of his soul. I ended the call quickly, my voice trembling with polite finality. But when I hung up, the silence in my kitchen pressed down like a weight. Who was Hannah Cole? And why was she written into my husband's life insurance policy? I couldn't sit still. The laundry lay forgotten on the counter as I grabbed my husband's file drawer from the study. Insurance policies, tax returns, bank statements. Every paper felt heavier in my hands. And there it was. His life insurance policy. My name typed neatly on the first page. And beneath it, in smaller print, secondary beneficiary, Hannah Cole. My stomach twisted. I flipped through the pages, searching for details. An address was listed for her. A downtown apartment I didn't recognize. No relation, no explanation. Just her name tucked into the most intimate corner of our financial life. That evening, when my husband walked through the door, he looked the same as always. Tie loosened, briefcase in hand, a weary smile. But I saw him differently now. Every detail was suspect. The faint smell of cologne that wasn't his usual brand. The way he checked his phone before kissing me hello. "Rough day?" I asked, steadying my voice. He shrugged. "Meetings, traffic. You know how it is." I nodded, but inside I was unraveling. That night, while he showered, I slipped his phone from the nightstand. Locked, of course. He'd changed the password months ago, claiming work privacy. But he couldn't hide everything. I saw the reflection of his notifications flash across the dark screen. One name appeared twice before the screen dimmed. Hannah. Sleep was impossible. I lay beside him, listening to the steady rhythm of his breathing, my body stiff as stone. In the dark, my mind replayed the name over and over. Hannah. By morning, my decision was made. I needed answers. After he left for work, I drove downtown. The address from the insurance policy burned in my mind. The building was modern, glass-fronted with a doorman at the entrance. I parked across the street and watched. Minutes turned into an hour. Then at exactly noon, I saw her. She was younger than me, late 20s maybe, dressed in a tailored skirt and heels, her hair perfectly smooth. She carried herself with confidence, the kind that comes from being wanted. And then I saw him, my husband, crossing the street, slipping inside with her, like it was the most natural thing in the world. No hesitation, no secrecy in his stride. My chest constricted, rage clawing up my throat. I stayed until the doorman opened the door for them, and I watched my husband place his hand on the small of her back as they disappeared inside. It was like being hit by a truck. The insurance papers, the phone notifications, it all made sense now. Hannah Cole wasn't just a name on a form. She was the other woman. I drove home on autopilot, the city around me a blur of horns and red lights. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly they ached, but I couldn't let go. When I finally pulled into the driveway, the house felt different, colder, smaller. Every framed photo on the walls mocked me. Vacations, anniversaries, family dinners, smiles that now felt like lies. I poured myself a glass of wine, but the taste turned sour in my mouth. I wanted answers, but more than that, I wanted the truth from him. That evening, when he walked through the door, I was waiting. "How was work?" I asked, keeping my voice even. "Long," he sighed, setting down his briefcase. "I'm exhausted." I studied him. The faint smell of perfume clung to his shirt. not mine. My pulse pounded, but I forced a smile. Funny, I said, because I was downtown today, near the Glasswater building. Saw someone who looked just like you. He froze. It was quick, but I caught it. The flicker in his eyes, the subtle stiffening of his shoulders. I think you're mistaken, he said finally, forcing a laugh. You must have seen someone else. But his voice lacked its usual ease, and in that moment I knew he was lying. The lie sat between us like a living thing, pulsing in the silence. He poured himself a drink, pretending nothing was wrong, but I could see the tension in his jaw, the way he avoided my eyes. I decided not to push. Not yet. Instead, I played along. I asked about his day, about dinner, about the news, but inside I was taking notes. Every pause, every slip, every tell. That night, when he fell asleep, I crept downstairs and opened the drawer where he kept old bills. Buried under receipts and letters, I found it. A key card, stamped with the same downtown building logo I had seen earlier. My breath caught. Proof. The next morning, he left early, claiming a breakfast meeting. I waited 10 minutes, then followed. My heart pounded as I parked near the building again, the key card clutched in my hand. Inside, the elevator mirrored my pale face back at me. My fingers shook as I pressed the button for the 12th floor. When the doors opened, I stepped into a quiet hallway lined with polished wood and gold numbers. Apartment 12004, the one from the insurance file. I slipped the key card into the lock. The light turned green, and when I opened the door, what I saw inside nearly knocked the air from my lungs. The apartment smelled faintly of jasmine and something sweeter like vanilla candles. It was spotless, stylish, nothing like the cozy mess of our home. The kind of place you'd never build a life in, only hide pieces of one. On the counter sat a half-empty wine bottle, 2 glasses side by side, lipstick marking the rim of one. My stomach tightened. This wasn't just a fling. This was a home, and he was comfortable here. I moved slowly through the rooms, my fingers brushing against details that cut like knives. A leather jacket I recognized as his tossed casually over a chair. A drawer in the dresser half filled with his shirts. A toothbrush, his toothbrush, resting next to hers by the sink. And then I saw it. A picture frame on the nightstand. Not of us, not of our daughter. It was him and her, smiling, their arms wrapped around each other. The sight knocked the breath from me. I sat on the edge of the bed, my chest heaving, every heartbeat pounding with betrayal. My marriage, 20 years of loyalty, sacrifices, love, reduced to this hidden apartment, this second life he had built without me. I don't know how long I sat there, but the sound of the lock turning snapped me upright. The door opened. Voices floated in, his low and warm, hers light with laughter. Panic shot through me. I couldn't move fast enough. The bedroom door creaked as I pulled it shut, but it was too late. His voice fell silent. "Clara?" He stepped into the room, his face draining of color when he saw me standing there, holding their framed photo in my hands. The young woman appeared behind him, her smile fading into shock. The silence was unbearable. My voice came out hoarse, trembling with fury and grief. "So this is Hannah." For a moment, no one moved. The only sound was the faint hum of the refrigerator in the other room. He looked at me as if I were a ghost standing in the middle of his carefully constructed lie. "Clara," he began, stepping toward me with his hand slightly raised, like he was approaching something fragile. "You weren't supposed to—" "Supposed to what?" I cut in, my voice breaking. "Supposed to know about her, about this place, about the fact that you've been living 2 lives while I was at home raising our daughter, cooking your dinners, waiting for you to come back from your business trips." Hannah shifted uncomfortably behind him, her eyes darting between us. She was younger, prettier, the kind of woman men risk everything for, but I couldn't hate her. Not yet. My fury was aimed squarely at the man who vowed to love me and instead chose deception. He rubbed a hand over his face, exhaling hard. "It's not what you think." I laughed, sharp and bitter. "That line? That's all you've got? Because from where I'm standing, it's exactly what I think." I lifted the framed photo, shaking it at him. "This doesn't look like a fling. This looks like a life I was never meant to see. Hannah finally spoke, her voice soft, trembling. She deserves to know, Mark. Her use of his name hit me like a slap. The intimacy of it, the ease. Deserves to know what? I demanded, my voice rising. He hesitated, and that hesitation told me everything. The truth wasn't just an affair. It was something deeper, uglier, more deliberate. Say it, I snapped. Look me in the eye and tell me who she is to you. His jaw tightened. He opened his mouth, but before he could speak, Hannah stepped forward, her face pale but determined. I'm not just his lover, she said quietly. I'm his fiancée. The room tilted, the walls closing in around me. My grip on the frame loosened, glass shattering as it hit the floor. I stared at him, my voice barely a whisper. Fiancé? You're already married. His silence was the confirmation I never wanted. And in that moment, standing in the middle of his double life, I realized my marriage had been over long before I walked through that door. The word fiancé rang in my ears like a cruel echo. My knees wobbled, and I steadied myself against the dresser, glass crunching under my shoe. You're engaged? My voice trembled, but the anger underneath was molten. How is that even possible? You already have a wife. You already have a family. He ran a hand through his hair, his expression twisting between shame and defiance. Clara, I was going to tell you. I didn't know how. Tell me. My laugh came out sharp, hysterical. You were going to tell me that while I was balancing the mortgage, the groceries, our daughter's school fees, you were out here planning a wedding with someone else. Hannah flinched, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. She wasn't smug or victorious, not now. She looked scared, maybe guilty, but she didn't speak. I turned to her, my voice shaking with venom. Did you know? Did you know he was married when you crawled into his life? Her eyes filled with tears. At first, no. He told me he was separated. By the time I found out the truth, I was already in love with him. I thought he would leave you. Leave me, I spat. We've built a 20-year marriage, a life, a child. You thought he would just walk away from that like it meant nothing? The weight of my words fell into the silence, and in that silence, I saw the truth written all over his face. He would have walked away. He already had, in every way that mattered. Something in me cracked, not from weakness, but from clarity. I straightened, wiping the tears from my face, and my voice turned cold. You deserve each other, both of you, but understand this, I will never let you erase me. You don't get to steal the life I built and rewrite it like I never existed. His mouth opened as if to protest, but I didn't give him the chance. I stepped past him, my heels clicking on the hardwood floor, my hands shaking but steady enough to open the door. For the first time in weeks, I felt stronger than him, stronger than the lies. I left them standing in their perfect little apartment, surrounded by their perfect little dreams, and I walked out into the daylight. But I knew this wasn't the end. Not yet, because he had taken something from me, and I intended to take it back. The drive home was a blur of headlights and rage. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white, but inside I felt a strange calm. The shock was gone. The tears were gone. All that remained was resolve. When I pulled into the driveway, the house looked different to me. It wasn't a home anymore. It was a battlefield. Every memory framed on the wall, every drawer filled with his shirts, every coffee cup he had touched was a reminder that I had been living inside his lie. I poured myself a drink and sat at the dining table with his insurance papers spread before me. Hannah Cole's name stared back at me in bold print, proof that he hadn't just cheated. He had planned for her. He had woven her into the future that was supposed to be mine, and if he thought he could quietly erase me, he was about to learn how wrong he was. I spent the next few hours making calls, a lawyer, a financial advisor. I learned more in one night than I had in 20 years of trusting him. His accounts, our assets, the policy that tied us together, every number became a weapon in my hands. By midnight, I had a folder of copies ready and a plan forming in my mind. This wasn't going to be a screaming match in a kitchen. It wasn't going to be a messy divorce that left me stripped bare while he played house with his fiancée. No, This was going to be precise, silent, and when it was over, I would walk away with everything he thought was his. I turned off the lamp, the house sinking into shadows, and whispered to myself the truths I finally believed. He betrayed the wrong woman. The morning light poured through the curtains, but I felt no warmth from it. I woke with a clarity sharper than any grief. Today wasn't about mourning what I'd lost. It was about reclaiming what was mine. By noon, I was sitting in a polished office downtown, my lawyer across the desk. She listened in silence as I laid out the story. 20 years of marriage, the insurance policy, the other woman, the engagement. When I finished, her expression was unreadable, but her words were steady and sharp. He's left a trail, Mrs. Reynolds, a messy one. The hidden apartment, the altered policy, his financial ties, they don't just prove infidelity, they prove intent. We can use that. For the first time since that phone call from the insurance company, I smiled. It wasn't joy, but something fiercer, vindication. Over the next weeks, everything shifted. Papers were filed, accounts were frozen. His name was stripped from assets he thought were untouchable. And when he finally realized what was happening, it was too late. The confrontation came in our kitchen, the same place I had once folded laundry, blind to the truth. He stood there, face pale, voice cracking. "Clara, please, don't do this. We can fix it." I stared at him, my hands steady on the counter. "You already did this. You built another life. Now I'm building mine." His fiancée might have had his lies, his late-night promises, his future plans, but I had something stronger. The truth, the law, and the will to fight back. When the papers were finalized, I walked out of that courthouse with my head high, no longer a wife chained to betrayal, not a victim of his double life. I was free, financially secure, legally protected, and emotionally untouchable. And as I stepped into the sunlight, the words came to me as clear as a vow. He tried to replace me, but in the end I replaced him with myself.